We're now live, Chairman.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our 12th virtual meeting of the Parish Council. And we're live streaming this to our council's YouTube channel, or you may be watching it on Catch Up, whichever. You're very, very welcome. I'm going to start this meeting off with a general roll call for councillors so that you can see who's actually here. So, Councillor Marsh.
Here.
Councillor Speary.
Here.
Councillor Forfar.
Here. Here.
Councillor Caudry.
Yeah.
Councillor Bird.
Good evening.
Councillor Speary.
Good evening.
Councillor Scott. Right, Councillor Scott's muted, but I can see him, so I can tell you he's there. He's waving at us all. Councillor Higby. Councillor Mignott.
Good evening.
And is that everybody? Councillor Anderson, did I start with you?
Sorry, was that me you were talking to?
Yes, it was.
We also have Councillor Caudry and
I'm
Councillor
definitely
Pennant
here.
in attendance.
Thank you very much. I can't see them on my screen. And we also have some officers here this evening. We have our clerk, Mel Stevens, our deputy clerk, Linda Greenslade, Joe Carhill, our finance officer, and our operations manager, Martin Johnson. And I'm Helen Douglas and I chair the Parish Council. Having said that, I'm going to hand over to Mel because this is our annual parish meeting. So Mel, to you, please.
Yeah, we now move to item 1 on the agenda, which is the election of chairman. Could I please have nominations for election of chair?
Could I propose, please, Helen Douglas to continue the excellent work she's done up to now?
Do I have a seconder?
I'd like to second that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. Are there any other nominations? There are no other nominations, so Councillor Douglas, you are re-elected as chairman of the Parish Council.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your faith in me. And I just want to say a few words about this because you may or may not know that I received from the Parish Council a very, very nice bottle of Prosecco and an extremely nice card to celebrate my 30 years of chairing Fair Oak and Horton Heath Parish Council. And on the front of the card were lots of pictures of things that have been very close to my heart over the last few years, and people that have been part of my parish council life. And I was very pleased and very touched to receive that from the parish council. I have to say that in all the years that I've been a parish councillor, it's been an enormous privilege and honour to serve the people of Fair Oak and Horton Heath. And I walk around and I look at the things that we as a community have achieved in those years, and I'm inordinately proud of everyone who's been involved in it. And it has, as I say, been an absolute honour to lead the parish council in that time. So thank you very much. And Mel, I know it was orchestrated by you and it was an enormous surprise as well. So thank you very much indeed to everybody. So we move now to item 2, the election of vice chairman of the council. I'm going to nominate Phil Speary to continue his sterling work as vice chairman of the parish council. Is there a seconder for that, please?
I'd like to.
Thank you. Quite a number of seconders there for that one. Thank you. Are there any other nominations? In which case, Councillor Speary, thank you. You're going to join me in, as vice chair of the parish council for another year. Thank you very much. So item 3 then, declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations that they wish to raise this evening, please?
That's none, Chairman.
Thank you. I can't see everybody on my screen at the same time, so thank you very much for that. Minutes of the meetings. Those are paper A that we received. There were an awful lot of papers for this meeting this evening, but minutes of meetings. Do we agree the minutes of our last meeting, please? Thank you very much. That's proposed by Councillor Tennant, seconded by Councillor Anderson, and all in favour, please. Thank you. That's clearly carried. Item 5, membership of committees, which is report B. I'm going a little bit slower than I normally do because I'm having to shuffle through all these papers. There are some membership of committees that are set out in the report. It doesn't include our outside bodies because we'll be dealing with that in June. Are there any alterations that anybody would wish to make, please, in that paper that's been published?
That's nodding of heads, Chairman, so I presume everyone's happy with them, with the memberships.
Thank you very much. Then the membership of committees, as in report B, will continue as listed. Item 6, our standing orders, report C. Now, this was a mammoth document. Are there any questions that anyone has that they wish to raise, please? Mel, can you see anyone with a question?
No, Chairman. Councillor Bird did point out a few typos for me. So if members were happy to agree the standing orders subject to some of those typos that Councillor Bird has his keen eyes spotted, it's very helpful. We do sometimes go a little bit word blind with these things. So thank you.
Indeed. In that case, I'll propose we adopt the standing orders subject to the clerk amending all the typos. Is there a seconder, please?
That's Councillor Speary and Colin Bird have seconded.
Thank you. And all in favour?
That's
Thank you. And that's carried. Thank you very much. Final accounts then. That was our report D. Are there any questions at all about those that you wish to ask Joe, our responsible finance officer, or Mel?
Doesn't look like there are any questions, Chairman.
Thank you. In that case, I'll propose that the Council approves these final minutes for the year ending March 2021 and that we note the Internal Auditor's report and we complete our annual return. Is there a seconder for that, please?
Councillor Speary seconded.
Thank you. And all in favour?
That's carried, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So Mel and Joe, if you could complete our annual return, please. That would be helpful. Item 8, our annual governance return, which was report D. I think that the dates for the public to inspect this document this year are between the 21st of June and the 30th of July. So if anybody's watching and they want to come and look at our accounts, then please contact the clerk within that timescale. So are there any questions at all about our annual governance report, which is shortened to AGAR? Not so sure about that, but any questions?
There's no questions from members, Chairman.
Thank you very much. And so I'll propose then that that's agreed. Is there a seconder, please?
Councillor Marsh seconded, Chairman.
Thank you. And all in favour?
That's carried, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So, Joe, we need to thank you very much because apart from some really, really minor things, the Internal Auditor is again holding us up as a beacon of good practice and is very happy with the audit and accounts. And it's very easy for us to look at them and, agree them, but actually it represents hours and hours and hours of work from you. So please, on behalf of the Parish Council, accept our gratitude for doing them and doing them so very well. We're very grateful. Item 9, our community cafe task and finish group. This is very exciting indeed. I think we have Julie Nicholson here on our call, who's from the Fountain Cafe. Mel, would you like to talk about this one to begin with, please? And then I'll ask Councillors Fulfer and Higby, who were members of that group, if they wish to add anything to it. So Mel, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Members will recall at the last council meeting, the Task and Finish group brought their initial findings to the council, and the council agreed that we undertake a community survey. And we undertook the survey for a 2-week period. We advertised it quite widely on our Facebook page, on our website. We invited people to write in if they weren't able to access the survey. And we've also we will let the Shorts Road residents know that we will undertake a face-to-face survey following a steer from members tonight. So the online survey, we actually had 911 people respond to that survey. So for a parish council survey, that's pretty amazing. I'm really chuffed with that. And of those 911 people, when asked the question, are you supportive of a community cafe being put on the Shorts Road site, 98% of people were supportive, so that's brilliant. The Task and Finish group have gone away, and we've analysed the survey results. We had lots of comments, lots of positive comments, and those have been included in the business plan that we've sent to members for consideration tonight. The thing that I would like to draw members' attention to firstly is the actual capital spends referenced in 7.3 of that business plan. Members will know that we've had 157,000 allocated via Section 106 money, kindly by Eastleigh's LAC. And we've also got 40,000 of our own money in earmark reserve. So that's a total budget of 197,000 for that site. We have today received, quite last minute, but I have circulated it to members, but I can bring it on screen, architectural drawings from Trinity Rose, who through Bargate Homes have actually kindly offered their technical expertise for free, which is also amazing because that will save on a lot of time and money for us. And it also means that the project will actually be done professionally as well. So if members want, I can bring those drawings up on screen, or if you want to have a look at them later on, that's absolutely fine. Essentially, it shows a timber-clad building that of a similar floor plan to size and scale of the current Scout hut, and with a veranda overlooking the current play park, with glazing either side. We're trying to make the building as environmentally friendly as possible. So that's the spec that the architects have been given, amongst other things. So the next stage of the process will be for members to agree the business plan, particularly 7.3, the capital spends, and then we can go out, do some more work with the architects, and then we'll start doing further community consultation, as I said, particularly one-to-one visits to Shorts Road residents.
I think, Mel, at this point, it might be helpful if you could just show us a picture of the building so that councillors who haven't had an opportunity to look can actually see, and of course, any members of the public that are watching.
Of course. Bear with me, I'll just share my screen.
It's all right, there's no rush.
There we go. I hope everybody can see that.
Yes, we can, thank you.
Okay, so members will see that the actual size of the building is very similar to what we've currently got up there at the moment with the Scout hut. It is a single-storey building with a slight elevation on the roof. That is because I would like to have solar panels there if possible. You'll see that there's glazing either side of the building, so you've got line of sight from Shorts Road. And there's a little veranda at the back which will face the play area, so that's next to the takeaway servery, which means that parents can actually have a takeaway coffee or sit at the veranda and watch their children. There's also some toilets there, and a separate meeting space just to give some flexibility to the community cafe. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the building. I can, if members have any.
Any questions, please? It is an extremely exciting project for us and the Fountain Cafe. Councillor Scott, you're just muted. If you could unmute.
I'll stop sharing, Chairman, so I can see members on the screen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I noticed you got phase 1 and phase 2. So the meeting room on the right, that is that in the current budget?
Yeah. So the building, the building plans that they've actually sent us are as in a total phase 1. So using and they've actually sent a budget along with it, and that comes at 194,000. So phase 1 will be the building, the cafe with the meeting room. We might as well do it all in one go because it will be a timber-clad modular building, and then phase 2 will be having other buildings, much smaller buildings on site where we could have things like arts and crafts activities, workshops, men's sheds, just by way of example. I think I've got that right, have I not, Matt? Bring Matt Nicholson here.
Hi, Mel. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because, as you know, Trinity Rose only sent something through in the last hour or two. And having had a look at what they've done, they've actually identified phase 1 as the cafe building only.
Oh, okay.
And the meeting building as being phase 2. So the numbers that they've given us, albeit that they are broad budget numbers at this stage, are only for the main cafe building. So I think it's important to understand that.
Okay, thanks, Matt, for clarifying.
That's all right. The other thing to bear in mind is that we've talked to them quite a lot, as you know, Mel, about how we can minimise the costs, because we believe there's probably quite a lot of people within the community and businesses locally who would want to support the cafe. And certainly from our discussions with Trinity Rose, they were very positive about that as well. And they've not reflected anything of that, of course, at this stage in any of the numbers. So if you like, at the moment, that's just a worst case professional budget, which needs to make sure that it's covered everything. And that is their first stab at it. So we've got a bit of work to do before we get down to establishing exactly what we think the real build cost will be.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sorry, Chairman. It's less of a question and more of a statement, just to thank Mel and the team for all the work they've done on this, because certainly when I stood for elections 2 years ago, one of the things that a lot of residents spoke to me about was that building and what was going to happen. And recently, walking around pre-canvassing sort of time with Councillor Caldry, again, a lot of residents are asking about that piece of land. And so people have spoken about the need of a cafe type space or a place that local residents can go to. So it really is exciting to see this starting to take shape. So thank you for all the work that's been put into it.
Thank you. Councillor Higby and Forfar, you've worked very hard on the task and finish group for this. Is there anything that you'd like to add to the conversation?
No, just more about excitement, really. It is a really good project. It's obvious from the responses to the survey that it's well needed. So very excited. Can't wait to see it come to fruition.
I think everyone's kind of covered what's going on, and just the excitement of seeing that we've got businesses who want to get involved, which is really nice to see. So yeah, all positive.
Thank you. Councillor Speary.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I certainly endorse the excellent work that's been done so far. And I want to be very boring now. So what's the sort of car parking provision on the site?
Right, Mel?
That's a very good question, as always. The car parking on the actual site, there will be a couple of disabled parking bays at the front of the cafe. We're not proposing to put any more than that because I think we've mentioned in the actual business plan, we quite like to encourage residents to walk to the facility as we want to try and pick up the pace of the 20-minute neighbourhood, which is basically residents have access to all the services that they want and need to live healthy and happy lives within a 20-minute walk. We have been in discussion with the village hall, and as you know, that the village hall have a car park on the park site. Myself and Julie are actually meeting with 2 of the management committee trustees next week to talk about the possibility of users of the cafe and the park using their car park. If the trustees feel for some reason that isn't viable for them, Martin Johnson quite rightly pointed out, we do actually have hard standing at the Brookfield Road end of New Century Park, which is currently used once a week. It's opened up for the walking group, and I think about 20 or so cars park there. So we have got that as a fallback position if we're finding that lots of people are driving, although we would hope they wouldn't, but being realistic, if they drive, that we could actually open the Brookfield Road site. Bearing in mind that actually the cafe isn't proposing to open 7 days a week, it's going to start off gradual to 2.5 days a week, and as the years move on, then I'm sure Julie and her team will look at that, and likewise we'll look at the impact on the roads and the parking issue. But as I said, we would hope that we would encourage residents to actually walk and to use their local facilities.
Can I just also ask then if there's any indication or anybody's checked with planning, is any kind of planning condition regarding parking on the site?
There isn't regarding parking, but we are, myself and Martin, and with the help of Trinity Roads, will currently receiving pre-planning advice from Eastleigh Borough Council. I can raise the issue of parking, but I don't think that's that will be covered.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, please?
Councillor Bird's got his hand raised, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bird.
It's really prompted by your answer to the last question. What about cycle parking?
Yes, yeah, another excellent question. We will, as part of the green agenda, try and encourage greener transport methods, and we would actually have cycle bike racks on site, and indeed hopefully with a phase 2 with additional buildings we can actually have cycle repair shops, if not at the cafe site, but most definitely we have discussed this with Nick as part of the library. We could have things like that going on at the library site. It'd be quite nice if those 2 sites, those 2 groups as charity groups, could work together and actually provide lots of different services on those sites for our residents.
Thank you. Any further questions? So I'm going to propose then that we agree this outline business plan and the outline budget, but obviously subject to monthly updates at our full council meetings about this project. And we're going to have some further resident consultation for the people in Shorts Road and maybe beyond. Do members agree that we progress this project in that way? So Councillor Higby, I think, is seconding it. And all in favour then, please.
That's carried, Chairman.
Thank you very much, everybody. So such an exciting project and something that this village has really been crying out for a very long time. I'm so pleased that we're actually managing to make it happen now in partnership with the cafe. Right, item 10. Another really nice item, actually, Pembers Hill play area. So we've had report G. If you remember, we have, well, Pembers Hill has been built now for a number of years. It has a nice green space bordering both Knoll Lane and Mortimer's Lane, as well as Pembers Hill itself. and we've been trying to put some play equipment into there. And I think now that we've got a report G, about the sort of equipment that could go in there. Mel, have you got anything else you want to add to this report, please?
Just to draw members' attention to the final votes, Chairman, we had 131 residents respond to the survey, 91 votes, that's 69.5% of the votes, were for Design 1, which was Vitaplay. Members will note that the total project is 60, but for the play equipment is 64k. That also includes £500 for planting, so Vitaplay are actually at the right seasonal time, so I think it is September, November, or actually do some planting for us up to the value of £500, which is great. I've also will be asking Eastleigh Borough Council's local area manager to allocate some public art funds so that we could actually put some bespoke cart benches, possibly a little barbecue post, and some bug hotels, which is something that the community mentioned in the first survey that we had undertook in 2019. The actual start date for the project will be the 7th of June. Vitaplay have indicated today that they will actually, fingers crossed all being well with supplies, that they'll be able to deliver the project within 4 weeks. So I'm really pleased for the Pembers Hill children that they'll actually be able to have a play area open, but for at least for the summer holidays. So it's brilliant, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions for Mel? Councillor Tennant.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do have a question, and it relates to something that's happened in West End that surprised me. We've recently had a play area installed a couple of years ago, and it's just transpired that Linden Homes, who were responsible for the development, are charging the residents for the maintenance of the play area, which is not really acceptable. It's caused all sorts of problems with neighbouring streets that have play areas. So I just want to check with this play area, who will be responsible for maintaining it in the future?
Good question, Bruce. I think it's going to be us, but I'm going to just double check with Mel.
Yes, it will be us, Councillor Tennant, as part of the Section 106 contributions. We'll have a supervision fee and a maintenance fee that will all be transferred over via Eastleigh Borough Council. Just to clarify on that site, currently the transfer of the land is going through at the moment, so it's to be transferred to Eastleigh, and then it will be obviously transferred over to us. We're obviously bringing forward the play area project before that process, which is unusual. However, as the chairman indicated, the residents have actually been very patient and waited for quite a long time for a play area on that site. Martin and his team will be undertaking the maintenance on that site from, it was actually from the 1st of May. That's following site visits with our play area consultant, Eastleigh Borough Council, Andrew Smith, the developer. So there's still some things to go on there, but we will be actually getting additional funds from Eastleigh as part of the Section 106 to maintain the play area going forward.
Well, I'd like to thank you for what you're doing, because I can see that in West End, it's an absolute disaster that the residents are having to pay to upkeep the green spaces, the play area. It's costing them as a management group £2,000 a year for the maintenance of the play area. And when anything goes wrong, they will have to then stump up for £10,000 or £5,000 for a piece of play equipment every time it happens. Mm-hmm. And so now the Borough Council are trying to, because there would have been a sum of money handed over by Linden Homes to the council, which didn't happen. So now we've got a complicated setup legally and financially, trying to take on the maintenance so that the parish council can take on the maintenance, or take the maintenance away from the residents, because it's not right that the private residents should be paying for the upkeep of a public play area. But I see you've got everything in control, so well done.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Councillor Tennant. I have to reassure all our residents that we do not have any play areas whatsoever like that in our parish. That is all about West End, and we wouldn't allow that sort of thing to happen in our parish. So I understand you've got a really difficult problem there at West End, and we've been fortunate to make sure that we haven't. So thank you very much for that comment. So this play area then is really, really long overdue, isn't it? Thank goodness it's going to happen. And, you know, you never know, fingers crossed for Crowd Hill later on in the year, we might actually manage to start doing something there as soon as we can get on the land and it's acceptable.
Maybe.
So item 11, then, the tennis courts at Lapstone. Martin, you've been dealing with this one on our behalf, haven't you? Would you like to talk about it, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I met with EC Borough Council, Premier Tennis and the Lawn Tennis Association over the last couple of weeks to discuss various options for potentially upgrading and outsourcing the hiring of the courts to an external provider, be that either the Lawn Tennis Association in consultation and with us, or Premier Tennis, or retaining them as a free facility, what they already are. Now there's a number of different options. Premier Tennis are willing to invest fairly significant sums upgrading the courts, providing a remote gate access system, additional works on the actual courts themselves, painting them, providing moss and weed killing treatments to them, and various other bits and pieces like new nets and other bits and pieces to provide a more professional service to the residents and people who wish to hire the courts out, along with professional coaching and out of school activities. The Lawn Tennis Association, they are willing to also invest in providing a booking system with us. So they provide a 50-50 split on any profits. No, sorry, that's Premier Tennis. I do apologise. The 50-50 split is from Premier Tennis. The Lawn Tennis Association will provide us with a greater income. Because we would, although they provide a booking system or assistance in providing the booking system, we would actually retain management of that. So the booking system will be more likely through our own current website, and people can access it via that. And but they're also willing to upgrade the gate access system, so they'll put that will involve some investment from ourselves. Upgrading the gate itself by providing an electrical supply to that, which would be a rough cost. On the initial report, we put a cost in of about £2,000, but I've actually had a quotation in now to provide the quote of about £600 to provide an electrical supply there. Now, the Lawn Tennis Association again will also assist with professional coaching on the courts and out of school activities. Or again, the option is to retain the courts as they are. Now there is an ongoing cost for the parish council in the region of about £1,500 a year to maintain the courts, and that is ever going to increase. The fencing is in need of repair. People were accessing the courts while they were locked during lockdown. They were breaking in underneath the fencing or climbing over the top of it, and it is in some need of repair now. And that is a cost that will be borne by the parish council should we not decide to go through with outsourcing to an external supplier or provider.
Thank you. Any questions for Martin about the tennis courts?
We don't have any questions from members, Chairman. Oh, Councillor Caudry's raised his hand.
Councillor Caudry.
You muted, Councillor Caudry.
I'm not sure I've entirely got on top of the costs element, but what I'm more anxious about is the use element. We do need these courts to help people to be active, and I have no real feeling which would be the most effective way of doing that. Martin, have you got any idea of which would be generate most use? Which of these options would generate most use?
I think at the moment, Councillor Coldry, a lot of people don't actually realise that the courts are there.
I think that's right. Yes,
and it's and with the outsourcing to an external provider, they will undertake and insist on advertising it and putting it out for. They want to generate an income as much as what we potentially could do as well. Especially the Premier Tennis model, they're really keen to advertise it and to have it used to its full potential. Now, I carried out a site visit with Premier Tennis at the Eastleigh Leisure Centre, the Places Leisure, and see their system in use. And just looking at their online booking system, they have they have a number of regular bookings with professional tennis coaching. So the income, if it's not being used by regular users or everyday users, then the courts are being booked out by professional tennis coaches. As an alternative, the Lawn Tennis Association model is that they are offering a family package. So they're carrying out extensive advertising. They want people they want people to use the courts again for the income generation that produces. But it's more of a case of in association with the model they've got in place with Hedge End Town Council. They offer family packages and group memberships, so they're not just advertising for individuals. They're wanting to get entire families down there, and that's been proving quite successful. I think in the region of £10,000 has been brought in per year on a 3 courts that they've got at Woodhouse Lane. So that's what they're generating.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I think that the money side is less important than who will generate the most access.
And I think that's down to advertising. It's allowing people, getting people aware that the courts actually exist. And that's either a parish council failure or whether it's actually people who do not want to use them. There could be a number of different reasons why they either are or are not being used, whether it's people are unaware of it or whether people don't wish to use them. There are many different reasons.
Yeah, my only worry about outsourcing it to someone is that it will make it a little bit more difficult for some people. I think probably a small minority to actually come in and join, but whichever option we use, there are going to be advantages and disadvantages. But I do feel that open access has its advantages, even though I suspect that in practice it doesn't actually mean that more people use it. Anyway, so I'm a little bit divided on this one, as I think most people might be. Yeah.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Speary.
Not a question, just an observation. It seems to me, as an argument, that we're in danger of going over the top with this. I would certainly like to see that we keep it in-house and we improve the security of it, whatever that's got to be done, and see how it goes. Now, if this does not fulfil the sort of aims that we eventually want for these courts, then maybe we look at the next stage. But my view would be keep it in-house, improve the security or whatever needs to be improved, and see how it goes from there on. I don't know how much aggravation there has been. I mean, the court's been there many years. This is the first time I've heard of so much aggravation. Of course, there's wear and tear, and there's misuse as well. I understand that. which we have coped with as a parish council over the years. And I'm a bit concerned we're going to go too far in the other direction, but that's just a personal view. Let's do the minimum requirement, see how it goes, and take it from there.
On that one, Councillor Speary, there have been a number of occasions, especially during the lockdown period, where it's been evident and it's been highlighted that there's been quite a few occasions where there's been court hogging by professional tennis coaching going on down there, not without our knowledge, but by the coach is going down there, generating his own income and using a free facility to do that, because we have an open door policy. They're either just using it and not allowing other people to use the courts, or making block bookings on our fairly primitive current booking system, which is done online, and accessing it that way.
Presumably the users get some evidence that they booked it from the parish council.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I mean they get an email reply, or Mel might be able to clarify what they actually get as a reply from the parish. But as an individual, that you can book it on our own booking system, but that could be your name, and the tennis coach is taking that person on. There's a number of people that have complained to us to say that they've booked the courts, and then when they've turned up, that the coaching, or people that are unaware that there's a booking system in place because it is an open gate, that they then just stay on the courts.
Yeah, thank you.
It is also worth saying, in addition to the misuse of the court, we've had quite significant antisocial behaviour down at the Lapstone, and that involves the tennis courts. Martin has told members that members of the public are actually crawling underneath, but also climbing over the top of the mental fencing, which is now showing its age. It does need repair, which obviously is quite alarming. So we have got these two issues, ongoing issues here, where members of the public are actually complaining about antisocial behaviour down at the courts when they're open. They're being used at night time, but also we're having complaints from residents that they're not actually able to use the free facilities despite booking, because the professional tennis coaches are, as Martin so rightly said, hogging the court. And we have, tried to address that through the booking system online, but also through site notices. But unfortunately, they haven't had much of an impact.
So could I just clarify something which maybe other councillors are thinking of as well, because I am a user of the tennis courts, not as frequently as I would like to, and there are issues on getting on there and approaching other people who are playing and won't give way to you. That can be quite difficult for a lot of people to actually do. It seems to me that if we gave our courts over to Premier Tennis, then we lose control of them completely, and we lose a lot of the income that would come from them. But if we go with the LTA, we work in partnership with them, and we keep the control. We still get the LTA grant to do our door, our gateway, and refurbish the courts, and they help us and assist us and advertise, but we then we still maintain control of it. And it might be that sort of compromise that might satisfy Councillor Speary, because I too worry about giving away, in effect, our tennis courts to other people to manage, because we lose that aspect of control with them. Whereas with the LTA, it's a slightly different model, and that may be more palatable for us. But there's no question that we need to refurbish our tennis courts, and if the LTA are going to give us a grant to do it, then that's all well and good. And we need to try and make them more accessible for members of the public. And having them open all the time is not making them more accessible, because we are having these people who are professionally coaching or simply just won't move. And I had an incident with a group of young people a little while ago who were just sitting in the middle of the court drinking, and there was no way in this world they were going to move. However nice I was about it, they were not going to move. And there are many of our parishioners who go along with children who wouldn't want to talk to those young people. And so they're not able to access those facilities that were built for them to play tennis on. So it seems to me that the LTA is probably a halfway house, that we retain some of the management and we don't give them away, but at the same time we tighten up on how they're used and get the news out there that we have got these spectacular tennis courts that are available for people to play on.
Yeah, I just want to say on that one, Chair, that both the Premier Tennis and Lawn Tennis Association have said that the standard of the court itself is really, really good. The playing surface is top notch, and it requires minimum investment to keep it that way. It's just it's tightening up the loose ends, the access to it, and allowing people who want to play to be able to go and play. Like you say, we're having the antisocial behaviour down there. And people that won't give way is causing an issue for those that do, and the amount that you charge is ultimately down to you, or as a parish, or down to us. There is no fixed pricing structure by going with the LTA model.
Thanks for clarifying that. Yes, and that's really helpful too, because it does mean that we can keep our tennis courts accessible. We're not there to make a profit, and tuck it into our coffers. We want to be able to break even and improve the courts when we need to be able to do that. We don't need to shed loads of money, and so we can control how much we charge for our residents to use. And if you use the booking system now, it's free, isn't it? Indeed.
Councillor Bird had his hand up for some time, Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Bird.
Right. I do have a specific question, but before that, I'd like to pretty much endorse what you were saying, Chairman. We usually manage our own assets. So we've just heard that in connection with play areas. So it's consistent. And if we retain it, we would have the support of the LTA, not controlled by the LTA. And if we did go with Premier Tennis, it could be relatively difficult to switch it back again. So I'd be very much in favour of going the LTA route. So having said that, my question, a bit of a technical one. I was a bit puzzled, Martin, by the use of the term sinking fund in connection with the tennis court. So I broadly know what a sinking fund is. I don't understand why there is one in the context of the tennis courts. That's it. That's the question.
Sorry, Councillor Bird. Yeah, it's again, it's something that the LTA have put down as a general upkeep for the maintenance of the maintenance of the courts. Now, that figure can be taken. I think they've taken it as an average cost throughout what service they provide throughout the area or throughout the country. It's not exactly going to be that figure. It may be more, it may be less, but if we use that as a ballpark, we know that is, and we can invest that sum into the courts on an annual basis, then we'll keep them at the present standard that they actually are already.
So it's a maintenance fund rather than a capital fund in reserve.
Yeah, it's an ongoing maintenance fund year on year. So that's something that we would have to put in our budget every year as part of the precept. I think that the point being that if we invest in our facilities, that we make sure that they continue to look good and are the best for the residents.
Any other questions, please?
Councillor Marsh has a hand up, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh.
I think, while I appreciate that there are issues around the tennis court at the moment, I've lived here for about 5 years and I didn't know there were tennis courts. And if I didn't, then there's a likelihood that other residents didn't either. In fact, I only became aware of the tennis courts when residents contacted me to tell me that there was a problem with the booking system. And I thought, well, I didn't know there were tennis courts, let alone that there was a booking system or anything else. So I think there's some work to be done on it's a great resource and facility that we've got on our doorstep. And actually, a lot of parishes aren't that fortunate. So my personal view is we should hang on to it, celebrate it, and really shout about that from the rooftops and make it known to people, make sure the booking system is working. So people can book it, the courts are numbered, they know which one they've booked, what time it's booked, and it's made accessible. I do think we've got some work to be done around the vandalism and issues around that area. So maybe CCTV might partially resolve some of those problems, which I know the parish is looking at already. But personally, I would be very reluctant to see this move to somebody else's control and lose this resource potentially. But I think we need to make sure it's in the right condition and utilised in the way that we'd like it to be. So.
Any more questions?
Councillor Speary, Chairman.
Councillor Speary, thank you.
Sorry to come back so quickly. It's just the question then, if the use of these tennis courts increased reasonably significantly, where are we with the gate?
Martin, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, sorry. Now, the Premier Tennis Gate would be owned and controlled.
I'm sorry, I meant the gate access to the playing fields.
All right. Now, obviously, there's the historical issue with and the planning condition that's in place for Lapstone playing fields. But tennis is a sport. It is a sporting activity. Now, whether that decision is made to open the gates when people have booked it, whether the decision is made to provide a gate code to people who wish to book it so they can park on site. Again, these are all questions that can be answered relatively easily. It's a decision that is down to yourselves to make, whether you choose to open it for people on a daily basis because the tennis is booked, or on a code by code basis. Again, there are a number of options there.
As someone who plays tennis quite often at Lapstone, sometimes without booking, I rarely see people arriving in cars. They tend to come on their bikes with their rackets on their back, or they walk across the fields. So I think that perhaps parking isn't going to be such a big issue to begin with, but it's certainly something that we need to bear in mind if we make the courts more popular. But at the same time, there's quite easy access into those fields from around the village. So perhaps people will choose not to come in their cars. I do remember a very long time ago when we opened the tennis courts, we had a complaint from a couple who said that they couldn't park their car next to the tennis courts. And when we pointed out that actually they were playing tennis to take some exercise and perhaps they could manage to walk a little bit of a way to get to them, they were most indignant. But I don't think we've had any complaints since then. But you're right, it is something we will need to consider once we see what the usage and how people are using these courts goes. So are there any other points that anybody wants to make? Or is somebody in a position to propose?
Councillor Scott's raised his hand, Chairman.
Councillor Scott?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wondered, have you taken any advice from a local area coordinator, Andy Thompson? You'll know that Andy Thompson is an expert on all things sport, and is a great organiser, and I just wondered if we'd had any advice from him on this matter.
Well, Martin's actually been dealing with Richard Woods, who is the Sports Development Officer. So, and Andy does have some knowledge of what is being proposed down at the at Lapstone. So yes, so Andy's job as local area manager is so busy. I'm not sure that he would want to particularly take on this, given that one of his colleagues is already looking at it with Martin.
Okay, so Martin's been dealing with whom? Richard?
Sorry, Des, I'm struggling to hear you.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Scott, I've been speaking and dealing with Richard Wood and Harry Stow, both members of the EC Sports Development Team.
Okay, and their advice was?
They're there to, as as independent as we are as council employees, we can present you with various different options to help people get into playing sport, and that is what we've done here. We've presented options to hopefully encourage more people to take up tennis in a facility that not many people, it has become apparent, know is there. Now, whether that is done on a paid model and is controlled externally, and we offer a more professional service through Premier Tennis, or whether we retain control and keep it low key, but still generate some income and do that through the LTA, again, is another option. Or we carry on with the model that we currently have, but extend our own advertising and possibly out of school activities. We have a fantastic facility down there that really isn't being utilised, and the three options that we have, one is the existing one, hopefully will generate a greater interest in a sport to get people more active.
Thank you very much, Martin. Well, I'm going to try and summarise this now. One of the options is to stay as we are. It's not working as it is. We need to do something. If we decide just to keep ownership ourselves, then we are going to have to find the money ourselves to pay for the improvements to the courts. If we go with Premier Tennis, which is what they're doing at Eastleigh in the town centre, in the new sports centre there, then, well, it may work for us, it may not. It's working very well at Eastleigh, we know that, but it's a much bigger organisation that it's doing it with, and we wouldn't have as much income from it as or control over it. If we go with the LTA will update our facilities, they will help us advertise it, they will institute all sorts of things like family memberships, etc. And that's what Hedge End are doing, and they are finding it very successful. So we've got one of three options, but I really think the first option, stay as we are, is not one that we can continue with because it's simply not working. So is anyone going to make a proposal, or shall I?
I propose the LTA route.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Speary. All in favour? We are. Thank you very much. Thank you, Martin, for all your work on that. And perhaps now you can move this project along a bit so that hopefully by the summer holidays, we've got some really amazing tennis courts that people know about and are starting to play on and use better. So thank you very much for that.
Going to go and try and play a game of tennis now that I know the tennis courts.
Yeah, you should do it. It's great fun. Great fun. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for coming. That is actually the end of our agenda. Thank you to everybody who's come along as a parish councillor, and also anyone who's watching at home, either live or on catch-up. You're very welcome. Our next meeting is going to be Monday, the 21st of July, back at 7 o'clock. So we're back to our Monday meetings.
And that's Monday, 21st.
Our first face-to-face meeting since we've had the pandemic. We know that lots of you are still cautious about public gatherings. You are very free to come along and join us in that meeting, socially distanced. But I have asked the clerk to investigate how we might be able to film or live stream all our council meetings in future so that they're much more accessible for you to go to without actually leaving the comfort of your own home. We're not quite certain yet where we're going to hold that meeting, but it's most likely going to be at the Woodland Centre at Crowd Hill. If you want to talk at any of these meetings, please email the clerk directly. You can do that up to an hour before the meeting to put your point of view across, ask us a question, or simply tell us about something that you find important in the villages. So thank you very much, everybody, again for listening, and we'll see you again.